Hey guys, I want to have a discussion about something that's been bothering me forever. It's about the megalithic structures and sites that you see around the world. I believe that there's a suppression of biblical flood evidence by archaeological institutions and governments. I know there's a coordinated effort amongst mainstream archaeological institutions and worldwide governments to suppress and discredit evidence supporting the historicity of a worldwide flood, as described in the book of Genesis. This effort is driven by ideological, political, and academic motivations aimed at preserving dominant paradigms and controlling the narrative of human history. I believe there's academic gatekeeping and career control. Mainstream archaeology is closely tied to academic institutions that operate within a peer reviewed structure dominated by naturalistic and secular assumptions. Scholars who propose evidence for a worldwide flood or pre-flood civilizations that match the Genesis narrative, they're often denied publication in major journals, they're discredited publicly and labeled pseudoscientific, they're denied tenure or funding opportunities. This academic gatekeeping discourages researchers from exploring or publishing dissenting views even when compelling data exists. There's ideological incompatibility with secular humanism. Modern academia tends to operate under the worldview of uniformitarianism. That's the assumption that current geological processes explain all historical changes, which directly contradicts the catastrophism described in the biblical flood account. Accepting the Genesis flood as literal history would undermine evolutionary timelines, it would change the secular origin of the story of humanity, validate positions of Scripture, thus promoting a theistic worldview. Such a paradigm shift is ideologically threatening to the foundations of modern secular institutions, particularly those in science education and media. Another big issue is evidence is often reclassified or ignored. Numerous sites around the world present anomalies that support flood narratives, including marine fossils on high mountains like in the Andes and the Himalayas, massive megalithic structures buried under sediment, polystrate fossils. These are tree trunks that are running through multiple layers of the geological column, which should be impossible from the evolutionary perspective, but we find those. Widespread flood myths across unrelated cultures. And instead of this information being interpreted as possible flood remnants, these are often reclassified under natural geological explanations or ignored in mainstream discussions. I also believe that there's a great deal of government control over sensitive sites. In many countries, ancient or anomalous sites are under strict government control. Access is limited, and independent researchers are often denied permits to study or excavate. Examples include the Sphinx enclosure in Egypt, which shows signs of water erosion, Gornoya Shuria in Russia, where investigations are rare and poorly documented, the underwater ruins of Japan, India, and the Caribbean. Governments may fear the religious, cultural, or the political implications of confirming a worldwide flood event that aligns with the Bible, and I think that's a big problem. I do believe that the consequence of this would be motivated historical revisionism. If the Genesis flood were verified as a literal event, it would force a rewriting of nearly all historical timelines from the Neolithic to modern history. And I believe such a shift would disrupt worldwide educational curricula, discredit centuries of secular academic thought, reignite debates about divine judgment and moral accountability in public life. These consequences make it more politically and socially expedient to suppress or dismiss such evidence. In conclusion, I could say there is a coordinated silence. While there may not be a single world authority orchestrating this suppression, the convergence of academic bias, ideological resistance, political sensitivity, and career incentives creates a de facto conspiracy. The result is a systemic silencing of data that supports the biblical flood, a historical narrative that, if validated, would change everything we think we know about human origins in ancient history. And that's vitally important.